Hello, this is Mad Cat, the angry egalitarian that discusses this and that. Today we ask the age-old question that we just asked today. Does watching porn make you a feminist? And remember, I had this just a moment ago. Oh, son of a bitch. I put you on mute. Oh, well, I'm still a little rusty. So, yeah, I've been away for a little bit of time. Trying to get my book out and everything, and I managed to get the first of two books out. Second book should be out within a month's time, but you can download my current book for free on Smashwords. There is a link down in the description below. It's called The Dagar Legacy, Templar 5, Journey to Darley. Has a really cool picture of a vampire on the front cover of it. So, designed by a great artist, David and Lily. They do Dream Keepers comic. So go ahead and check them out. So today we are discussing porn. And more specifically, if watching porn makes you a feminist or not. Now, this is something that just came up recently, and let me go ahead and pull up the screen for that. There's a bit to discuss on this. There we go. Men and women who watch porn online may hold deeply feminist views and believe that women should have equal right, study says. Now, this is on the dailymail.co.uk, so it's not exactly the most biased resource, but I love reading this stuff. So let's go ahead and take a look at what they have to say. Now, it's thought that more men than women like to watch porn online, and that clicking on adult websites probably stokes deeply sexist views about women. I'm guessing stokes is some UK word that I don't know. But this is not entirely true. According to a study carried out by a team of researchers at the University of West Ontario, the General Social Studies Survey suggests that both men and women who log on to watch porn may actually hold deeply feminist viewpoints. Wow. That's a rather interesting premise right there, given that many feminists for a very long time have stated that watching porn is sexually objectifying women. It is demeaning to women. It's a way of controlling women. And now a study says that watching porn might actually make you a feminist. That's kind of weird. Let's continue. Now, I did have a lot of this done up, but it erased it when I reloaded the page. So, according to the survey of those who watched adult film once in the past year, were likely to believe that women should have equal opportunities. Additionally, they also believe that women should hold positions of power, work outside the home, and be able to have the rights over their reproductive systems, like being able to opt out of an abortion, or opt for an abortion. Well, those beliefs are not specific to feminism. Many within the men's rights movement believe the same things. So it's a little difficult for me to say that this is indicative of feminist views, because if you're going to say that they're feminist views, then you also have to say that they're men's rights movement views or the MRA views. Just believing in those things doesn't necessarily make you a feminist. I know this because I have feminists all the time tell me that I'm not a feminist because I believe in men's rights, even though I agree as an egalitarian, I believe in all of these other things as well. The survey spanned decades that was carried out between 1975 to 2001. Yeah, that's complete bullshit right there. They're referring to another survey that was done between 1975 to 2001. I looked on there. What was it? The General Survey, Social Survey, started in 1972 and has been going since 2014. They do it about once a year, although lately they've been doing it once every 2 years. So, yeah, nice slip up there. 1975 to 2001. Hell, the research paper itself, which I will show you, states that they only use the one from 2011. And it takes a lot of time to really analyze this data. That's why they're basing it off of a study from 2011 and not using the most current one from 2014. But 1975 to 2001, how about you actually read the study yourself? Okay, it is widely believed that the single best source of data on social trends in the United States. 56% were female, 43% were male. Just over half the people polled were married. The other combination of people had never been married, widowed, or divorced. 85% were Protestant or Catholic. And according to Bustle, there are other ways feminism helps men and women. Researchers from Oxfam revealed that nations with feminist movement had better policies when dealing with violence against women in comparison to countries with no movement. What does that have to do with porn? What does that have to do with the survey? I mean, we were just talking about a survey which you revealed like a big shocking thing. What does that one line have to do with anything? I mean, if you want to have something about this research right here, feel free to talk about that on another article. Well, let's continue. According to Salon, women with college degrees are more likely to be married than women without a degree. Okay, again, what does that have to do with porn? And those who are financially independent and have careers are more likely to get married and stay married. Okay, you've lost me here. I mean, now you're starting to get into things that have nothing to do with this article. And it's just, wow. You're taking this issue and launching it as a way to make sure people know that feminism is good. Just to make sure that no one can complain about all the bad things that feminism is, you say that people who watch porn have feminist viewpoints, and then you state why feminism is good. One has nothing to do with the other. But you know what? Let's actually take a look at the survey itself, which I have loaded up here. It took me a while to find this because the original article did not list this. By the way, if you are viewing now, feel free to leave a comment in the chat and I'll try to read it as best as I can. So, what I'm going to tell you right now is that this article, this article and many articles like it actually missed the point. So here's the actual title. Is pornography really about making hate to women? Pornography users hold more gender egalitarian attitudes than non-user in a representative American sample. Notice that it says egalitarian, not feminism. Now, one thing to note And my first thought when I saw this is like, oh God, another feminist survey. This wasn't a feminist survey, as I'm about to show you. This is actually rather ingenious, and in many ways is an anti-feminist survey. Excuse me, my throat's already dried up. La-di-da-di-da. So I'm going to read a couple of things. Despite 4 decades of social scientific research on the topic of pornography, many of the effects of the consumption of sexually explicit materials remains poorly understood. And already we go out in the gate with that. And that is just a perfect summation of what this entire research survey was, what this paper was all about. Let's continue. Some clinicians, I can't read that word, clinicians, researchers, and social commentators have adopted the view that pornography can improve sexual functioning by proving frank sexual information, reducing shame and anxiety associated with sex, and invigorating libido. That's what I always believed, that watching porn is actually a rather good and healthy thing. In contrast, others have cautioned that the use of such materials can be associated with risky sexual behavior, excuse me, poor mental health and well-being, degraded relationship functions, and of course, sexual aggression. Well, yeah, that sounds like most of what I've ever heard from the feminists. Much of the contemporary debates concerning the potential harms of pornography use has historical roots in the writing and theorizing of radical feminists. According to this view, all Brown Miller, that's a very important name to know when it comes to radical feminism. If you're not familiar with Brown Miller, I know she wrote a book. I think it had some sort of statistic that was based on something she heard on hearsay, but she wrote it down as a fact. And then years later, when people question her on it, she has nothing to show for it. Okay, so according to this view, all or almost all sexually explicit material presents a distorted view of sexuality, one in which women are depicted as anonymous, panting playthings, adult toys, dehumanized objects to be used, abused, broken, and discarded. Again, by Brown Miller. Depictions of female nudes are still reductionist and deny female sexual agency. As the feminist critique of pornography asserts, at the core of contemporary pornography is contempt for women. One need not to look at the most violent or sadomasochistic pornography to reach this conclusion. Dines. Gail Dines. If anyone follows Mercedes Carrera, you probably have seen that name as they're kind of going back and forth. Gail Dines loves to put people out there. It's like, well, if you like porn, then you just hate women. Fuck you, you stupid cunt. And, you know, I say that, and I really want you on my channel. I really want to talk to you. I really want to, you know, hash it out with you. And I promise I won't swear at you. I mean, yeah, I got a little mad there, but I fucking hate you. You know, but if you're watching this, I want you to tweet Gail Dines and challenge her to come on my channel. And I promise 100% I will be respectful to you. I will listen to what you say, but I will still fucking hate you at the end. Probably not good that I just swore there. She probably won't come on now. Those who adopt a radical feminist perspective assume that exposure to pornography denigrates women, increases acceptance of the view that women are inferior to men, and that it's appropriate for women to be subjugated sexually and otherwise by their male partners. I'm slowly getting to the point of what this survey is actually about, but these are some really good points that'll help you understand. So let me go ahead and skip down. Such conceptualization of pornography, both as a form of sexual discrimination in of itself and as a source of discriminatory and subordinate attitudes and behaviors, have contributed to attempts to promote gender equality by censoring pornography in the United States. Dworkin. I believe she was the one who said that all sex is rape, and the European Union, and has successfully influenced the legal definition of obscenity in Canada. So basically, because all of these radical feminists believe that pornography is so detrimental to women that by promoting gender equality means that you have to censor pornography. So let us go to the next section. At present, comparatively little research has examined the impact of pornography use on the endorsement of gender inequality directly. Of the available research, a small number of studies have produced results that are consistent with radical feminist theory. Yeah. No other comparable study demonstrate associations between more general, not specifically violent or degrading, pornography use and non-egalitarian attitudes. And most smaller scale experiments and non-experimental studies have not found such connections, referring to Mary Koss. I'm sure these other names have some meaning to someone, but the names that I mentioned, they come up a lot in my stuff. Specifically, experimental studies that have randomly assigned participants to view either pornography or non-sexual control stimuli have failed to find any impact of pornography exposure on participants' attitudes towards gender inequality. Taken together, it appears evidence that would substantiate radical feminist theory concerning pornography's role in maintaining structured inequality between men and women remains inconsistent. However, some of the research that refutes this position has been conducted with relatively small samples on self-selected undergraduate students or non-students pornography use. And that's important, as we will discuss in just a moment. In addition, virtually all of the studies that have failed to find associations between pornography use and non-egalitarian attitudes have purposely sampled from populations with restrictive variability in the factors of interest. That's a lot of big words at once. Undergraduate university students are known to have more egalitarian attitude towards women than those who are not attending universities. So most of these studies are looking at college students and asking them what their views are to try to find some link between pornography and misogyny. But if you're going to ask a college student, they already believe like these things about women and are more likely to be feminist than someone not going to college. So it does represent a poor sample size when all you're doing is interviewing college students. and the restrictive range of available respondents provided by undergraduate research participants may have attenuated associations between attitude towards women and pornography use among such samples, potentially contributing to the null effects previously reported in the literature. Similarly, and there is no reason for the color coding other than just to make it easier for me to read. Similarly, studies that have tried to increase their generalizability by sampling consumers of pornography have made comparable mistakes by excluding non-users from the sample. So most of these studies, when they're looking at trying to find some connection between misogynist attitudes and pornography use, they don't look at those who don't view pornography, likely because they believe that all men view pornography to some degree or level. But this right here is actually what this whole survey is about, as we will continue reading. Examining the relationship between increasing pornography use and gender non-egalitarian attitudes in this fashion reveals nothing about the most relevant contrast, those who do not consume pornography relative to those who do. If radical feminist claims hold true, non-consumers of pornography should hold more egalitarian attitudes than consumers of pornography, as they are not regularly inundated with the messages of inequality found in pornographic materials. As such, exclusion of non-pornography users from such research may weaken the association between pornography use and gender non-egalitarianism. So basically, it's saying that if porn is basically how people develop these non-egalitarian viewpoints, then there needs to be evidence that show that people who don't watch porn have more egalitarian viewpoints. But they don't ever seem to test for this because it seems like they already know this to be the truth, or at least they think so. But I also think it's because they are afraid that it might reveal something different. And that's why they don't test for it. In short, the failure to find evidence that pornographic use is associated with attitude towards gender inequality among many studies may simply reflect the methodological shortcomings of research in this area, which has been typically underpowered and has employed sampling strategies that may reduce the magnitude of this association that investigators were trying to find. A more rigorous test of the relationship between pornography use and attitude towards gender equality requires a larger representative sample that is not chosen in such a way as to reduce the range of responses of variables of interests. So basically, they're shooting themselves in the foot whenever they do these studies and severely limiting themselves so they can try to weasel out the conclusion that they already have. They're trying to get the facts to match their beliefs. In the face of inconsistent empirical evidence for their position, several contemporary feminist voices continue to assert the view that pornography trains men to devalue women. According to Gail Dines, I'm showing respect. Porn is the most succinct and crisp delivery of women-hating ideology. While we have other places that encode such an ideology, nowhere does it quite as well as porn, as this delivers messages to men's brains via the penis a very powerful method. Well, Gail Dines, I'm glad you said that, because if what you say is true, that nowhere does it quite as well as porn, means that if we look at a sample size, that says that doesn't watch porn, then by your own conclusion, they must be more egalitarian than those who do watch porn. I'm so glad you said that. And if you ever get your foot out of your mouth, come on my channel. We'll talk. If such claims have merit, we should expect to find clear evidence that pornography users report more gender non-egalitarian attitude towards women than non-users. Further, because pornography is said to train men to be aggressors while simultaneously training women to accept their fate as victims, again, Dines, we should also expect to find evidence that pornography use is associated with non-egalitarian attitudes in both men and women. So here's a couple of things here about the proportion of the GSS. Now, the General Social Survey, let me explain this a little bit. So, as I mentioned, it's been a survey that started around 1972. And pretty much until I think 2000, it was either 1994 or 2004. It was being done every year. Most of the time, they were doing in-person interviews with a couple of hundred people every year, or they would do it on the phone, but that was a rare occurrence, as far as I understand. Now, the questions that would be asked is a wide variety of questions. In fact, let me give you some ideas of what kind of questions those are. So this is the cumulative data file from 1972 to 2014 with nearly 60,000 cases. Sequential variable list. As you can see, I've already been through this. But let's go to pornography here. So this also kind of tells me what the coding is, which is important for another project I'm working on. And by the way, anyone can view this information. This is open to the public. It's just that there's so much data. I opened the PDF file for this. It was 3,500 pages long. It is probably the biggest PDF file I've ever opened. 3,500 pages. So the next questions are about pornography, books, movies, magazines, and photographs that show or describe sexual activities. So basically, people look at something and determine. Let me go to the one that this is referring to. Porn law is interesting. Not X movie, but X. No, it was X movie. This was only done for 1 year. So this doesn't really help at all, especially since it says VCR. But this is the one that they're primarily using in the study. Have you seen an X-rated movie in the last year? 77% of the people said no. Of those 23%, which of them had egalitarian viewpoints, more specifically concerning women? So basically, they looked at 4 questions: feminist identification, attitude towards women in positions of power, attitudes, back up, towards women working outside the home, attitudes towards abortion, and attitude to the traditional family. Okay. Now, this is a lot of math stuff that I don't really like working with. Most of it I don't understand. My math is rather limited in this sense, but here's some findings here. So, feminist identification. This was an indication of no, they're not a feminist. Pornography users, 87% of men stated that they were not a feminist. 76% of women that view porn state that they're not a feminist. Non-users, 85% state that they're not, 71 states that they're not. Okay. So women hold positions of power. Now, this was on a 1 to 3 scale. Likely that there was a yes, no, and I don't know. So this 1.4 is how close to 1, which is an egalitarian response, it is. So the closer to 1, the better. So for pornography users, more men who view pornography are perfectly okay with women holding positions of power than men who don't view porn by 0.11. Now, of course, this is just a calculation based on results, but that's a significant difference. Women who view porn, 1.32 versus women who don't view porn, 1.52. Smaller this number is, the better. And what we're seeing here is that men and women who view porn are likely to be more egalitarian than men and women who don't. Working outside the home. Now, this was a 1 to 5 scale. So closer to the 1, again, is better. 2.9 for men who use pornography versus 2.99. Not a huge difference. For women, it was a little bit more significant. Now, and then we have the other two here as well. And we got this is kind of back to a 1 to 3 scale about traditional families. And pornographic men, 2.27, 2.33 versus 2.33 and 2.30. So there looks like that these percentages are very close. Now, what we're seeing here is it's not really asking whether or not men or women are feminist. Rather, it's saying, well, if watching porn makes you a misogynist, then that would have to mean that people who don't watch porn are egalitarian, which means that these numbers should be a lot better. Non-porn users should be closer to egalitarianism than pornographic users. But we're not seeing that. First off, there's no correlation between misogynistic attitudes and pornography. That's one thing this proves. But a second thing it proves is that people who engage in pornography tend to have better opinions of women than those who don't. Now, it's not saying that people who watch pornography have feminist viewpoints. It's just saying that in comparison to non-users, they have better viewpoints towards egalitarianism than non-users. And that's all it's really saying. This is basically taking the feminist concept of what it means to view porn, what kind of person you have to be to view porn, and believing this idea that viewing porn somehow makes you this horrible, horrible person that doesn't respect women. And yet, this national survey system that's been going on for 40 years is telling us a different story. Now, there's no bias here. There's nothing at stake for people to take these surveys to answer a certain way other than their own biases. People are being given this, and then researchers can come, take a look at this data, and make a decision based on that. So let me scroll down. A couple more things to read. In contrast to radical feminist theories concerning the impact of pornography on gender inequality, the current study using data collected by the General Social Survey found no support for the proposition that pornography use is associated with holding attitudes supportive of gender non-egalitarianism. Of the 5 high-powered statistical tests conducted in this study, a total of 3 tests indicates that individuals who had viewed pornography films in the past year held more egalitarian attitudes than those who had not. A pattern of results that directly contradicts the prediction generated from radical feminist theory. Of the remaining 2 tests, neither was statistically significant. Taken together, the result of the study failed to support the view that pornography is an effective deliverer of women-hating ideology. Again, from Gail Dines. I recommend taking a look at this study. I've linked it down below. It is very good. There's a lot of great points that are made in this. I actually plan to do an article series on this where I will discuss in greater detail about what's being discussed here and the relevance this has. But the second part, I'm hoping to use a special tool to help me analyze it. Basically, this looks a little confusing, but let me do a couple of quick things for you to show the meaning of this. Because one of the problems you'll notice here, we don't see gender in this. So how do we know what men and women picked for this? Well, actually, the data files for this actually reveal that. And this helps us show that. So let me go ahead and do that real quick for you. Oopsie. So okay. The question was, should women take care of the home and not the country? Rather, should women stay home and take care of the family, or should they be allowed to work? And this was a yes or no question, or agree or disagree. Disagree stating that you don't believe that women should only be designated to the home. So I'm going to be using this for my second part, where I'm going to try to understand this a lot better. Now, this is telling me all the males. And look at what we have here. Disagreed. 90% that said yes to viewing porn disagree with this. So they believe that women should go out in the workplace. Now, 88.9% of those who don't view porn also disagree with this. Now, it's only about 1.1%, so it's rather insignificant. But again, if Gail Dines was correct and that non-porn users should be more egalitarian, this number should be so much greater than this number. And yet this number is so much bigger for people who view porn, is so much bigger than people who don't view porn. Well, what about agree? Yeah, I agree that women should be at home and never go to work. Well, people who view porn, 10%. People who don't view porn, 11%. Still a 1.1% difference. Rather the same, but this is actually something I find throughout all of the things that I've done, that it's generally people who don't view porn that has more of these misogynistic attitudes versus people who view porn that tend to have the most egalitarian attitude, more egalitarian viewpoints. But let's take a look at women. Same thing, although it's a bit more contrast. Women who view porn, 92.3% of women who view porn disagree with the idea that women should stay home, versus 83.1%. That's about a difference of 9.2%. That's a bit more significant than men. And then those who agree, 16.9%. 16.9% of women who don't watch porn agree with the assessment that women should stay home, versus 7.7% of women who do watch porn think that women should stay home. The greatest of erotic entertainment makes me happy for the male race. TGOEE. I don't know how to say that. To Joey? Joey. You know what? Porn has a great benefit to our society. And I think that the true measure of society, one of the metrics that we can measure society by is how it treats its adult entertainment industry, whether it's from porn stars, whether it's from strippers, escorts, prostitutes, what have you. These things are important to any society. They have existed in many, many societies, despite many societies outlawing them, trying to get rid of them, and they still remain. And feminists have always had a problem with pornography. And I mean, right here, 92.3% of women who watch porn feel that women should be allowed to go out and get a job. A significant difference between women who don't watch porn. And I think a society should be measured on how it treats women who do engage in this kind of entertainment. And that's my personal opinion. But the big thing to take away from this is that there is no correlation between misogynistic attitudes as defined by feminism and pornography. No study has ever demonstrated that correlation. And this survey actually says, not only says that there is no correlation, but actually suggests that the exact opposite might be true. That people who watch porn might be more egalitarian than those who don't. That watching porn might actually be a healthy benefit to society itself. Too bad that feminist researchers are not going to pay attention to this. And it's also unfortunate that other feminists are taking this meaning that people who watch porn are more feminist. But even this study acknowledges that this doesn't really indicate any sort of correlative behavior. It only states that research done by radical feminists is inaccurate, and that their assumption, their bias that they put into their study doesn't hold water. And that's what this survey is about. And maybe with this study, someone will actually do a study that can help determine whether or not watching porn makes you more or less egalitarian. Because I'm willing to bet that if an honest study was done, that it would find that pornography is a great benefit to the world. Anyways, I ask that you share this video out, especially to anyone who enjoys porn, because I think this is a very important study. Also, if you like the stuff that I'm doing, and might want to see me do higher quality stuff, because I would love that as well, consider donating to my Patreon. Sorry, kind of had a brain freeze. Consider donating to my Patreon. Now, I'm still going to do videos whether you donate or not, but if I can get a little bit of money to kind of help my situation out a little bit, and with my disability and whatnot, I would also like to make better, higher quality videos for you rather than just using Google here. Anyways, that does it for me. Mad Cat signing out.